It's been a long time since we've all been together on the Talking Bear Football podcast.
Right here on westbranch.football. I mean, it's only been 2 weeks.
It's only been 2 weeks, but we're all family, almost.
Speaking of family, we are presented by the Browns West Branch family of dealerships.
Nice. Thank you, Stephen.
Set it up like a pro. Stephen Grace and Matt Chinander and Jason Miller, and we're excited to be with you to talk about the victory.
Right here on westbranch.football.
God, it sounds like we haven't been together for 6 years or something.
Yes, 1 + 1 is 3, and all that good stuff. 28-14, the final last Friday night. West Branch at home on homecoming gets a victory to seal a playoff spot. Playoffs, we'll get to that a little later, but 3-0 now in the district, 5-1 overall, Stephen. A good victory, 28-8 at halftime, and the Bears hold on.
Yeah, it was, perfect start for the Bears in terms of kickoff, you get a 3-and-out, and then march down the field, just 3 great plays. 3 plays to go 55 yards, 56 yards, and you score, and then you get an interception right away. We drove right back down and then just came up short on downs, and, give Durant credit, Nolan DeLong hits a big one, but then from there really just took over control of that first half. And I would say we even played decent in the second half. We didn't add to the lead. We gave up 1 touchdown. We had 3 turnovers in there. But when you compare it to Mediapolis the week before, where, Coach Hirschman said it at halftime, they came out pretty much complacent, just really flat in that third quarter down at Meepo. A lot better effort from the Bears this Friday night. Just, unfortunately, 3 straight drives that ended with turnovers. And, credit Durant, a good football team, because they made the Bears force some of those plays and unable to add to that lead. But for the most part, though, that defense took care of what they needed to and got the victory.
And Matt, when you think about where we were after game 2, we knew after beating Lisbon in week 1, playing Waterloo Columbus in week 2, we knew going into the season, if you get 1 win of those 2, we would feel pretty good about it. And that's exactly what West Branch did. But off of a home loss in week 2, they go out and get a convincing victory in week 3. And after a big test last week, kind of just held on. And there really, after halftime, there really wasn't much of a worry, I don't feel, on the whole, because that defense started to settle in.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing here. And I think Stephen kind of touched on kind of my main point here. And Coach Hirschman talked about it with Jerry Flegel coming out of the half on the Bearcast, and like Steven mentioned, we saw it last week and we saw it again this week. The Bears just came out in that second half and weren't able to put points on the board, really in the third quarter. And, Steven, like you said, they played well. Like they did some really good things in that third and fourth quarter against Durant, but and moved the ball downfield and got set up in position. But yeah, just held back by a few turnovers on a lot of drives that had a lot of good promise. That first drive right out of the half, 24-yard rush by Andy Henson, 34-yard pass and catch to Holden Arneman, then a loss, then a holding, and then a fumble, and then Durant goes right down the field and scores. Next drive, Bears get across 50 in Durant territory, and then an interception. Drive after that, Bears force a punt, get the ball near midfield, then interception again. So they were doing everything they needed to do to continue to put that game away, but just couldn't kind of capitalize and complete everything. And I think this is something that the Bears can get away with if you have a big lead like they did, 28-8, going into the second half. But I think it sets up a pretty tough situation if you don't have that big lead, or if you're playing a great team like Mediapolis from a week ago, or Regina, who we've got coming up this week. I think this is something that the Bears, they need to get figured. Like, I'm not panicked, but I think they need to get it figured out, because as we head into Iowa City this coming week, and then at home against Wilton after that, and then the playoffs, we need to be able to either put games away in that third quarter or be able to stay in them in the event that we're losing or it's tied. And if we can't, do that, it's going to become pretty hard to win. But yeah, I'm pretty, like you said, Jason, I'm pretty thankful for the Bears defense in these situations. But I see an opportunity for improvement here, and I know the coaching staff does as well. And I know that they and the players, they're going to get it figured out.
And you talked about in your the podcast last week, you and Steven, and then Steven and I talked in the weekly game preview about Durant, and really just focusing on the name Nolan DeLong.
Yeah.
All in all, the team had 8 points. Well, he scored 8 points on his fleet feet. He had 128 rushing yards, 84 of them came on one play. If you take that away, he had 14 carries for 44 yards for the rest of the game. But he's always he's just that good of a back, and you can't bring him down with an arm tackle because he's a strong, punishing runner that usually gets the pile moving forward, even if it's for 2 yards.
Well, we've got the same thing too. Andy Henson, and just another monster game. The kid is unbelievable, and he was worn out at the end of that game. I'll say that.
Did you know? I'm sure you did. That was a personal best, career high for Andy Henson for rushing yards in a game.
I could believe it. It was a good game.
That was the second time he's ever been over 200, and both of them were this season. 2 out of the last 3 weeks. But 28-14, the final. Bears get a homecoming victory, as I stated, and a very important victory to get them qualified for the playoffs. How did we get there to the final score, Matt?
So obviously starting in the first quarter here, Durant gets the ball to start the game, but the Bears force a 3-and-out, and they go 56 yards right down the field in just 3 plays, as we mentioned. 2 Andy Henson runs get the Bears down to the 11, and then Kenneth Belk finishes the drive with an 11-yard screen, kind of an out screen catch for a touchdown. Wyatt Fetterland's PAT is good, so 7-0 West Branch early. On Durant's next drive, Cash Woody intercepts a pass, kind of near midfield or so. But they fail to make anything of it, give it right back to Durant, and as expected, DeLong finds a hole, and no one was going to catch him. 85-yard touchdown run. The 2-point conversion was good, so 8-7 Durant in the first. Holden Arneman gets an interception to give the Bears back the ball at their own 24-yard line, and West Branch takes advantage of that. After a really nice 24-yard completion from Belk to Belk, the Bears score again on another one of those kind of throw-out screen passes, this time to Peyton Miller, who uses his agility and speed, and yes, I said agility and speed, they are 2 different things, to avoid 3 tacklers and get it in the end zone for a 25-yard touchdown. PAT is good, 14-8 Bears early second quarter. On Durant's next drive, the Bears force another turnover, and this time it's a fumble on the exchange from Hoosman to DeLong, recovered by Kenneth Belk at the Durant 18-yard line. Bears get then set up at the 1-yard line thanks to a Carver Belk to Cash Woody reception that sets the Bears up first and goal at the 1. And then they run up to the line, and Belk sneaks it in for a 1-yard touchdown. PAT is good, 21-8 Bears.
Drake Berry gets the touchdown.
Thank you, Steven.
Sorry. Excuse me, Drake Berry gets the touchdown. A little bit later in the second quarter, Durant had a 4th and short, and West Branch sends no one back to receive it. I think just kind of what seemed to be kind of in an effort to guard against a fake, because DeLong is the punter, and obviously he can run it, but as we saw in this game, and he can throw the ball too when he needs to. And it kind of backfires as the punt was down at the 1-yard line. I mean, bouncing towards the end zone, and then on that last bounce, just took a complete hop right to the right and didn't move it forward anymore. But yeah, fear not. All the Bears do is just go ahead and march 99 yards down the field, like normal. On 10 plays to score on a 13-yard Andy Henson touchdown run.
Which wouldn't that be a school record for the longest drive in the history of West Branch football?
It would at least tie it, yeah.
It would be tied, yes.
And, that drive had a really nice 47-yard run from Andy Henson to set the Bears up inside the 20. Plus, I remember Coach Hirschman talking about this after the game, too. That first play of that drive from the one, Wyatt Fetterland got the ball and just, a powerful 6 or 7 yard run right up the middle. Nothing fancy about it, just a lot of dirt flying. But that just gave the Bears breathing room to be able to execute their offense from at that point because, your back's against the end zone, your feet are in the end zone, you really can't do much. So I thought it was a good job by Wyatt to kind of get the Bears out of there so they could run a normal offense. But yeah, 28-8 West Branch at that point. Then in the third, Durant pulls within 2 scores on a nice 18-yard throw from Hoosman to Gast on a kind of a really just a good route, a good throw. West Branch, we kind of just misplayed the ball and misplayed misplayed Gast, and he got in the end zone. 28-14 West Branch, and that is how we ended.
Well, hold on a second, Iowa. I'm getting word Iowa just got another interception. Oh my goodness, they're up to 14 now. Poor Maryland, poor Maryland. But good West Branch football. 5-1, playoff qualified, and best wishes to Durant moving forward the next couple weeks. They
doesn't get any easier.
Mediapolis and Iowa City Regina. If they want to make it to the playoffs, that's just that you be the best. To be one of the better teams, you got to beat one of the better teams.
Yeah, and they just haven't been able to do that. And you can see that they're a good team. Just maybe sometimes get in their way. They get in their own way a little bit. They've got the talent. They've got the ability. Just kind of a bummer for them sitting at 1-5.
Yes, indeed.
But they're going to be back next season. They're young, just like us.
Durant's going to be back next season?
Well,
You're kidding. I'm messing with you, Matthew. The majority of their players, specifically, what's his name, Steven?
DeLong.
Nolan DeLong. He is going to be back again next season to terrorize a defense near you. So, other District 5 games. Let's talk about some of those that are going around from last week. High scoring game at L&M this week.
Yeah, no kidding. 1-0. Regina won that one. Technically 1-0.
On penalty kicks.
Yeah. L&M forfeited that one. Not exactly.
And they've officially now forfeited the remainder of the season.
Okay. All right. So yeah, Regina gets the win in that one. They improved to 6-0 on the season. And then Mediapolis defeated Wilton 49-0. Bit of a game there, but I think Wilton had some injuries in that one too. Is that correct?
They have a couple of key players that were not available to make the field. But Mediapolis, let's just say they were probably a bit hungry.
Yeah.
And with clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. Well, they did not. They were focused, and it shows. Up 35-0 at halftime. And then it just steamrolled to 49-0 final.
Yeah, I don't want to play them again.
I would not. It'd be a tough one. That's a physical football team. Well, before we get into talking about another physical football team, let's hear from one of our sponsors.
Hodge Construction is a leader in developing commercial and academic spaces, multifamily condos, townhomes, and more. Hodge Construction began in Iowa City in 1981, focusing on residential construction. Through positive relationships and quality projects, Hodge has continued to grow and expand its project diversity over the past nearly 40 years. At Hodge, clients aren't customers, they're partners.
Week number 7 of a 8-game regular season. By the way, if you didn't know, West Branch is in the playoffs again this year. Week number 7, though, is first. And week number 7 brings the biggest challenge on the West Branch schedule from an opponent. Iowa City Regina. The defending Class A champions have moved back to 1A. They are 6-0 officially, have only played 4 games on the field. They've collected 2 forfeits. Week 3 against Mid-Prairie. Mid-Prairie was battling a big bout of COVID and injuries and could not field a fair team, so they forfeited in week 3. And then we just talked about L&M forfeiting the remainder of their season, which began last Friday night. But in their 4 games, gentlemen, Regina is winning by an average of 30-7. That is a fair winning margin and good performance like you would expect from a Regina football team that has won a state championship pretty much every year in the last 10 years.
Decade.
Pretty much the last decade in Iowa high school football. If you're going to name the most successful team, it begins and probably ends the first tier. There's only one team on it. It's the Regals of Regina High School, and then everybody else. But enough of that. We'll skip to 2021. Completely different football team than what they've seen the last 3 years, where it's Ashton Cook and Alec Weir and Theo Coley, a real big 3-headed monster. They don't have that big-time passing threat and receiving threat like they have in years past. But what they have, gentlemen, starting with you, Matt, is a very big, very well coached, very technical, and very physical 5 guys right up front that Stephen refers to as the skill position players.
Yeah, and they literally are. This is a ground and pound team. As you just said, Jason, they have such a fundamentally sound and strong offensive line and defensive line too. But yeah, that offensive line, it just really helps their run game have tremendous success. And taking their through the adjusting for forfeits through the 4 games that they've been on the field, they're averaging 225 yards per game on the ground. And they're not doing it by breaking off big plays. They just get 6 or 7 yards per play, make their way down the field with Levi Daniel and either Gentry Dumont or Jack Tierney at quarterback, and then add in an occasional pass. But for the most part, it's kind of those gun read plays where Tierney can keep it or give it to Daniel, and they just have tremendous success with it because they're so fundamentally sound and just kind of make their way down the field. That lineman math, as we always talk about. My key here is going to be the Bears' defensive line, obviously, and the linebackers, and just they're going to need to play smart and patient football. And what I mean by that is just kind of filling your assigned gaps, not doing anything you're not supposed to do. Let your play call, your good fundamentals play call, help you out in this situation. Regina really kind of just lets plays develop, and then they attack. Kind of the idea here would be don't give them anything to read and just fill all the holes in all levels. Patience is key here, as I said. And I think on the offensive side for the Bears, it's going to be up front as well. I mean, they're going to need to be successful on every block and execute perfectly to open lanes for Andy and give Carver time to pass. And I mean, that sounds overly generic and obvious, but it's true. I mean, Josh Gaffey, Aiden Udell for Regina, defensive linemen, they're the team's leading tacklers, excuse me. Do you see that too terribly often from defensive linemen? I think that says a lot to me. So I think, the Bears are going to need perfect execution to come out with a win, but I'm excited. I think it's going to be a really good game. And I think if the Bears can do that, they're going to be right in it.
What do you see, Stephen, when, Matt's talking about the real physicality of this football game? Because it really is. When you look at Regina on film, they're not going to be a team that's going to, I got a 20-yard crossing route, or I'm going to take a shot down the field a lot, because they don't have nobody in the state has you're not always going to have an Alec Wick at the small school level. It's just not going to be there. They are going to try and pal you. They're going to try to wear you down, not just physically, but mentally wear on you, Stephen. So where does that, as a lineman, as a former lineman, where does it come in? Where can you begin to, okay, this play I'm frustrated, but I've got to wind that, wash that away and get back for the next play.
I mean, it all comes down to just the old cliche: have short memory. I mean, if you happen to have a block that you miss, flush it and get back after it, and just make sure that you're hitting your read the next time. On the defensive side, like Matt said, just make sure you're reading your keys, you're filling your gap. Don't over pursue with that play flow. Get worried about some of those counter plays coming back, or make sure that you're not going to let the quarterback pull it and keep it himself, because you've got two really good quarterbacks that can run the football quite well. And I think one of the things from this past Friday night that was encouraging, and hopefully we can keep building on that, Cale Seidel was a guy that so many times he was left basically on an island on the backside with contain, and he did a phenomenal job of either turning the play back inside to let the rest of the defense get out there, or he made himself a nice one-on-one tackle. And those are the keys too. I mean, you're going to have to win these one-on-one matchups, because you're not going to have those opportunities that, oh, well, 2 or 3 guys miss a block, so everybody converges. There's going to be a lot more one-on-one chances that you're going to have to make sure that you can execute when you're in that position.
Yeah, I see that you really are going to have to win those. I guess you might even call that a 50-50. When you talk in basketball, the 50-50 plays, the loose balls, the rebounds that are up in the air that you got to fight for. You got to try and win those battles with the game within the game. And when you're talking about a team like Regina, more times than not, they're not going to hurt themselves. They're not going to make very many glaring mistakes that you're going to see on a piece of paper. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, that's exactly right.
It's just one of those teams that has just been doing it over and over again, a plug-and-play system. And with a new coach, we haven't even touched upon that. Former defensive coordinator, assistant head coach, still defensive coordinator, and now head coach, Jason Dumont, takes over from Marv Cook, arguably one of the most successful coaches, win-loss, state championship-wise, in the history of Iowa high school athletics, of any sport. And that includes Jim Wheeler of West Branch Golf. And he was pretty successful in his day. But wish Marv the best in his retirement. A former Bear great, very loved and respected athlete from my childhood that I'll never forget. I enjoyed watching him, and I would love to go back and do that again. It was so much fun. But when you think about it, it's a new coach, but it's not completely a new system. They know what to expect from Coach Dumont and an offensive coordinator, guys, that has been there with them for 10 years now, in former Hawkeye great Eddie Hinkle. So they've got guys there. They're just plug and play. We're Regina football. We're going to line up, see what you can do to stop us. And so far, nobody has.
Yeah, it's no secret what they do. It's just up to their opponent to stop it. I mean, there's nothing, like I said, nothing fancy, nothing flashy about it. They just go out there and use their strength and their really good execution to win ball games. And quite frankly, that wins ball games, and by a hefty margin. So they're doing it right. But yeah, it's going to be tough. But like I said, I'm excited just to see if West Branch can kind of, put together everything that they've been building over the last, 6 weeks now? 7 if you include a scrimmage. It's time to kick it into the next gear, because, we've got Regina, we've got Wilton to close the season, and then into the playoffs. So this is the time. And in my opinion, I think you're in a playoff mentality starting now.
Steven, give me one key in 15 words or less. How about what is the most important part if West Branch wants to win this football game besides scoring more points than the other team? One key.
Trust in yourself. Trust in your coaches. Trust in your teammates. I mean, this West Branch team, it's awesome to see from week 1 when we kicked off at Lisbon to where we are now, how much it has grown and developed. And, just watching it on film, watching it on a Friday night, seeing it up on the practice field. I mean, this team has grown and continued to get better each and every week. And so trust in what you've been doing, trust in what you've been working on, and be able to just keep building on that. And, it may be a tall task with a top 5, top 3, whatever they are in the state, defending Class A champion and, really good all-around team. But you know what? Like you said earlier, Jason, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. So, it's a great opportunity in front of you to take on a really good football team and see how you can stack up and see where you're at with all of those things that you've been improving on.
Matt, same question for you. In 15 words or less, give your key, and then explain your fight.
I think I did it right before you asked Steven to do it. Just
Okay.
yeah, this is, in my opinion, the playoffs start now. This is the kind of caliber team. I'm going way over 15 words, sorry, but
You're fine.
this is the type of team that you're gonna face and have to beat in the playoffs if you want to get anywhere. So it starts now. Why not us?
Why not us? I like it. Nobody better. Why not us? Well, that's it. That's your breakdown. You keep your eyes. We've talked about a few of the guys for Regina. You're going to think about Levi Daniel is going to get the ball a lot. I mean, he's had 94 carries or something like 90 carries. He had 40 in the first game. So they're not bashful. If they're beating you up front, if they've established their will on you, they're going to hand it. They're going to give it to him. And then watch out for Jack Tierney. Fleetfoot, 23 carries, 213 yards from that when he's playing quarterback. That is a pretty impressive stat. Nearly 10 yards a carry. That's pretty impressive from a quarterback. So watch out for those two guys. And then Grayson Dumont, the head coach's son, is also going to play a little quarterback.
Gentry.
Sorry, not Gracie. Gentry Dumont. Grayson is his sister. She's a pretty fantastic athlete. She not gonna lie, she's a pretty fantastic athlete. It's pretty successful in her own right. But those are some of the key guys you're gonna need to keep your eyes on. And for West Branch, just keep doing what you're doing. Don't be flashy. Don't try to limit those the cliche, Stephen and Matt, of the team that has the least amount of turnovers and can limit the penalties and does well on special teams. Those things is going to win this football game. Look at it. That's that kind of a game. Let's take a break, and we'll be back with Picks to Click.
EMS Detergent Services has been providing janitorial supplies to businesses across the Midwest for over 50 years. Based in North Liberty, EMS uses products made right here in Iowa and offers exceptional and affordable services for their clients. Learn more at emsdetergentservices.com. Julie and Dan Hayes at EMS Detergent Services, proud supporters of the West Branch Bears.
Pick to Click. Last week, I wasn't around, but I mailed mine in. Aiden Shields. And let me tell you guys something. West Branch, since the first game, is 21 of 21 on extra points. That means the snapper and Drake Berry, the holder, Aiden Shields, and the kicker are doing well. So little things in football, and the holder has a good job. Wyatt Federlin. Matt, I'm guessing that was your pick to click last week then?
It was, yes.
All right. Hold that thought right there. Stephen, who was yours last week?
I'm trying to remember. Did I go one-timer?
Yeah, you had a guy, doesn't see the field much, Andy Henson.
Jim Henson?
Yeah,
his
Jim
nephew?
Henson.
Yeah, Kermit the Frog's brother.
Kermit.
Yeah.
Yeah, hard to go wrong with any of these, but hard to not give it to Steven for Andy, because that was, career game, which I would have figured Andy had more than 226 yards in a game at this point, but I was wrong.
It seemed like he had about 91 carries, too, the other night.
Yeah.
He had 15 at halftime, and then 26 total. So it just seemed like he had more. So, any rate, I think that we all win. The Bears win. That's good news. Good news for the Bears. So this week it looks like Steven, you get to go first.
I get to go first. All right. I'm going to go back to the well that I went early in the year, and I'm going to take Drake Berry again, just because it is going to be one of those games that he's going to have to play a huge role on that offensive front and get that line going to try to get Andy established, but also defensively trying to clog things up and make the quarterback decide early where he's going with it and not have some clear running lanes for those, either the quarterback or the running back.
Jason Miller.
I think along the same lines as Steven here, and I'm sorry, Steven, and I'm going to go with a guy that his name's not in the paper. We don't talk about him as much as maybe he should get a little bit more notice for the dirty work. I wouldn't call it dirty, but the fantastic physical work that he does on both sides of the football. And against a team like this, that's going to want to try and tick you down the field with some of that lineman math Steven talks about of 4 yards plus 4 yards plus 4 yards equals what?
First down.
First down. Well, if you can get it to 3, 3, and 3 and a punt, that doesn't equal a first down, except for you on the defense when you become offense on turnover on downs. Linebacker play, lineman play. You need physical guys. And this guy's been very physical all year. He's number 50. It's Cole Bailey. That's my pick to click.
I'm taking Holden Arneman. I think
No, you're not. You are not taking Holden Arneman. Steven? Judge's ruling on that? Wyatt Federline, I believe, would be his pick.
I was going to say,
he's my secondary pick, of course.
Okay.
I mean, we're on a 5-game winning streak or 4-game winning streak with Wyatt Federline.
Yeah.
So
I don't believe in superstitions.
okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, Holden Arneman, I really like what he's been doing over the past few weeks, just kind of increasingly, having more of a role in these games, both on both sides of the ball. And I think he's going to be an important guy here. So from a defensive perspective, at cornerback, it's inevitable that Levi Daniel is going to get to the second level. And I think it's going to be really important for our safeties, or really just all of our defensive backs, to be able to crash down and keep contained, and be able to make open field tackles. Because if we can't, it's going to be a long night. So I'm going there, Holden Arneman. And of course, too, on defense, take advantage of the times that Regina does throw it, and be there to break it up or pick it off. But offensively, too, I think it has the potential to be a tough night for Andy running the ball, just with how tough Regina's defensive front is. And so looking for kind of like the Peyton Millers, Kenneth Bell, Holden Arneman, Cash Woody to get involved in the receiving game to help this Bears offense out. So Holden Arneman, but second, Wyatt Federline.
Well, I can tell you a name I want to mention for his play last week and how he's grown throughout the season. I'll give you guys one guess of who I'm going to just talk about that maybe we can mention, because it is Talking Bear football.
Right here on westbranch.football.
Presented by the Browns West Branch family of dealerships.
And we're going to bring it in. And, a lot of kids, we mentioned name after name. We've mentioned the skill position players up front, the skill position players in the back. But the growth of a sophomore defensive back in Cale Seidel really was playing some physical, spirited football. I think his name was called last week on the first 4 tackles, consecutive plays. He made a tackle. He made an open field tackle one-on-one on a guy that has about 50 pounds and 6 inches on him.
He did it 2 or 3 times against DeLong.
Against DeLong. That's because, Steven, he's not afraid to go in on that single leg. He's a wrestler.
He's a wrestler, man.
He's got some, he's physical. So I just wanted to make sure and bring him up. And we've been talking about the physical things, and Matt said, take advantages when they throw the ball. Regina's played 4 games and thrown the ball 73 times. So they're not exactly just a running team. That's 18 passes per game. That's a lot of doggone throws. When you're a team that, when you look at them, look at the yardage and where they've scored, they've eaten up the clock quite a bit when you watch it on film. So, I like that's why I was giving that, because when you said Holden Arneman, that's a really, really good pick. Like Family Feud. Good answer. So, West Branch, Regina, it's Friday. It's going down at, I don't know what Regina's field's called. The Regal.
You can just say in Iowa City.
In Iowa City, on the northeast, 8 minutes away. 8.8 miles. It's one of those good rivalries that it's, you need those in high school sports. Keep it a rivalry. Keep it fun on the field. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. It's just the next team on the schedule. Let's wrap things up, Stephen. Tell them how they can keep up with West Branch football now and on Friday nights.
It's pretty easy. Go to westbranch.football. All kinds of information there. If you're on social media, follow at WB Bears Football. Go to our YouTube channel, search West Branch Football. We're getting the games uploaded from this year. We'll start to get some of the old ones uploaded from years past as well. Just go to the interwebs, look for West Branch Football. You can pretty much find us wherever.
Well, there'll be one more thing, statistically speaking, that maybe next week we can put in our table of contents, Matt. We can get an update through 7 weeks on the over and the under to see where we are, because there'll be one pivotal week left in the regular season to see where we separate the winners and the losers of that over-under. Very important contest, which means nothing. So we'll do that next week on the Talking Bear Football Podcast.
Right here on westbranch.football.
Presented by the Browns West Branch family of dealerships.
And until then, take care, everyone.